Count before you starting now.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Welcome to the High Tech High Media Arts History Channel.
And today we got
me, Tia.
and me, Max.
Think to yourself, have you ever been to a clothing store and you've seen some type of fur coat? They always cost a fortune. They're used mostly for like fashion most times.
This has been true for a long time, even way back when. Back in the day, there was something called the fur trade that sent fur from North America to Europe.
Spain used the idea that they could sell fur for a lot of money.
Not only that, but they could boost the price because it was new exotic animals that weren't in Europe. It was the American dream, even before America. But alas, lots of people wanted to make money, and they couldn't share it, so naturally they went to war.
Today, we're going to be talking about the French and Indian War.
Whenever I think of a war that has two countries in the title, I usually think that they went to war, but weirdly enough, in this war, the French and Indians actually worked together to go to war against British and some other Indians.
But not only did the French have natives on their sides, the British also did.
The war was started by the French in the 1750s.
The French expansion in the Ohio River Valley would bring them in many conflicts with the British. They would repeatedly come in armed conflicts with them. But with these expansions and mini wars would start the fur trade.
The fur trade was pretty much just a trade route that transported fur from the New World to the Old World for profit. At first, the most expensive furs that they sold were beaver fur and sea otter fur. Both the French and British had similar motives to expand, but the French wanted to work with the natives to make allies, while the British just wanted to take land any way they could and do stuff with the land.
The British had land in North America, also known as the East Coast now, and the French were in New France, also known as modern-day Quebec and Montreal.
You may be thinking about why did the French want to expand for influence, but the British just wanted land. You all know that the British just went to the New World for land and to expand for more money. They then took the land and kicked the natives out, but not the French. In 1602, the new French company was given a royal charter and exclusive trading rights from Florida to the Arctic Circle and westward along all rivers leading into the Fresh Sea, aka the Great Lakes.
Their strategy was to use the native canoes to traverse the river into the lake, to arrive to the native land. The French were as interested for the land compared to the British. The French were there to trade, make new allies, and of course, money.
They had a different philosophy. Rather than making enemies and having to go to war over the land, they decided to become allies with the natives, and they made trades that would mutually benefit both of them. So the French asked for furs and pelts, which they needed, so the Indians, on their hunting trips, would take both the meat and the pelt they got and give it to the French. In return, the Indians were given European goods and protection, which we'll get into later.
Some of the European goods were guns, knives, axes, pots, and pans. But the French brought their alliance a step further by marrying the natives and learning the native language.
In 1603, the French had made an agreement to help what's that say to you?
Montagnier.
Of course. Against their war against the, what was that?
Iroquois.
Confederation. They supplied the
Come on, you gotta say it.
Montagnes.
Montagnier.
Okay. With guns, and they blocked the Iroquois.
Yes.
I got it. Against expanding into the St. Lawrence area.
Saint Lawrence. Get it right. Come on. Allez. Saint Lawrence. Then the British said that they wanted to have French land. But, so they sent a message, and guess what? They were just like, no. So they fought to conquer the land. The French just built forts to conquer it and be like, this is mine, get away. But George Washington led an army to go tell them to remove the forts and fight.
So the natural next step was to go to war. Some of the Indian groups allied with the French, and then some of them with the British for whatever reason.
The French allied with the natives. Why? I mean, like, the French didn't destroy their land, make huge farms, or cut down a lot of trees, unlike the British. They were nicer, married the women of the native land, and tried to incorporate their culture in their everyday life.
The French were making a lot of victories early in the war, and the British started to get worried. The fur trade had turned from economic gain to actually political gain, so that the French could make more allies with the natives. The British would have done much better if they were nicer people to the Indians, for sure. But because the French and Indians were trade partners, they were getting many more allies. They were getting worried, but then in 1757, a new English Prime Minister, William Pitt, vowed to win the war for the British. So then, in 1758, there were much better trained British generals and armies that would be fighting the French in North America.
The British didn't really care about who was on the land or what was on it. They only wanted power and half that land to their names.
The French's biggest motives were to get both allies and more fur to sell back in the New World.
The Prime Minister started training new armies to come and help to win the New World, and they actually succeeded.
These newfound victories for the British started to make Indian groups join forces with the British so that they would be on the winning side of the war, which was pretty weird. But this started to worry the French and their hold on the land.
In 1758, the British finally were able to capture one of the French forts. They changed the name from Fort Duquesne to Fort Pitt.
The British were now able to focus on the French forts in Canada. The British took control of Fort Niagara, which was an important fur trading outpost for the French. After that, the British captured Quebec. That allowed them to start moving more north and inland. But after that, they then captured Quebec. The French were really never able to recover after this, and they effectively had lost the war. But by 1760, the British had taken control of Montreal also, and that ended the fighting in North America.
The 7-Year War still wasn't over. There's more to come in Europe and India.
Well, we'll just get into that in another episode, not right now.
Yeah. The Paris Treaty still was not signed. It will only be signed in 1763. A few years later. Finally, the treaty was signed, and the British had land on all 13 colonies of the west of Mississippi.
Wait, Tia, what's this Treaty of Paris you keep talking about?
Let me tell you. Okay. The Treaty of Paris was that Paris, also known as France, had to give almost all their land in North America to the British.
But now with the war over and the French having to give up their fur trade, it was now much smaller because it was only done by independent groups rather than the entirety of France. The English had taken over the land and stopped most of the trading because it had very little benefit to them, for they could make money other ways.
But nowadays, 2018, there's still real furs for sale. It's cruel. These are farm furs, animals cramped in cages in inhuman manners, then later on gassed in brutal manners, or some skinned alive in horrific ways. But there's a new way. Some people have started doing this, but it's hard because there aren't many. Finding roadkills or naturally just dead animals in the forest and using those for nowadays are only used for fashion and decoration. Yeah.
The war was ended, the French had to leave, and the fur trade had ended. But sadly, fur farms are still a thing. Thank you for watching the High Tech High Media Arts History Channel, and we'll get back to you next time.